This is one of those gameplays where, after it was all over, I sat back and said to myself, this right here is why I played Total War. So strap in, ladies and gentlemen, the mother of all Warhammer sieges coming your way right now. Let's go. The hordes of Chaos Undivided and the Skaven Under Empire have invaded Ulthuan and outnumber the defending High Elves 2-1. They've got 80,000 gold to work with. I've only got 40,000, which means they're fielding tons of elite troops, Khorne Chosen Berserkers, Warplock Jezzails, a Screaming Bell, Warp Lightning Cannon, Stormvermin, Albino Guard, and a metric crap ton of clan rats and slaves. And then even scarier, the forces of Chaos Undivided, Chaos Trolls, Nurgle Chosen, Flamers of Tzeentch, a ton of Chaos Warriors, lots of horrifying units for my High Elf army to deal with. I am defending the city of Lothern, massive city, really high and powerful walls, and within I've got a really strong High Elf army to push back the encroaching forces. So I've got Swordmasters of Hoeth and Phoenix Guard protecting the gate, outnumbered but incredibly resilient in melee. Lothern Sea Guard and High Elf archers up on the walls. Lothern Sea Guard are my favorite High Elf unit. Extremely versatile skirmish and melee unit, can switch from long range armor piercing bow to a spear and shield combo. Very, very good unit. Very cheap to field as well. And we've got Dragon Princes of Caledor also on the field, which you'll see in a second. But right now, the siege towers for the Skaven are moving up. Plague Monks moving in. They're going to be the first onto the walls. They've got 2 HP. Very resilient. Good unit to send up first onto the walls. My Swordmasters of Hoeth are going to be trying to deal with them in melee. And then over on this side of the battlefield, I have a sneaky ambush coming out. Some High Elf Spears and 2 Dragon Princes of Caledor, the nobility of Ulthuan. They can just eviscerate enemy units on the charge. So I'm going to be trying to do some damage to the Chaos Undivided and Skaven forces outside the walls. We'll see if I'm going to be able to do that. So Plague Monks have officially made it to the walls now. We'll quickly get up on and start engaging my Swordmasters and my High Elf Spears up there. And what I wanted to do was just tie down some of these Skaven troops and just hammer and anvil, cycle charge right before they're about to get up onto the wall. So with these Dragon Princes of Caledor, I should be able to do a lot of damage out on the open plain. It's really hard to use cavalry inside cities in Medieval 2. It's hard to get them to drop their lances, but out on the open plain, they should be a lot better. Actually, not going to get an amazing charge off into these clan rats. Kind of going to go straight for the ladders instead. So yeah, not a great charge. And then I have another Dragon Princes of Caledor unit moving past, getting ready to charge some of the Night Runners. They're a like javelin dagger throwing unit that are also climbing up. And the Warp Lightning Cannon is about to open fire into my troops. And this is going to be really bad. Look at that. Completely eviscerated by the Warp Lightning Cannon. The entire unit is literally my best cav unit is going to run from the field instantly, lose more than half of their troops from that single shot, and that was not a good way to start this battle at all. The Plague Monks have made it up onto the walls surrounding my Lothern Sea Guard, doing quite a bit of damage there. Look at that carnage unleashed by the Warp Lightning Cannon, and that Warp Lightning Cannon is not done yet. It's going to do even more damage here. Send in my High Elf Spears to start killing some stuff, and the Warp Lightning Cannon firing again, and oh my god! No, I just lost 14 more Dragon Princes of Caledor, and at this point I throw my hands up and say, hell no, this attack is not going to work. It is time to get back inside the city. There is too much firepower outside. The Hell Cannon and the Warp Lightning Cannon are going to do way too much damage to me. So after losing about 50 of my finest High Elf Warriors, time to get back inside and just defend the wall. So for now, Shadow Warriors and the Lothern Sea Guard, the Swordmasters of Hoeth, completely destroying these Plague Monk attacks, and there are also some Albino Guard up on top of the walls. Lothern Sea Guard engaging them. We'll have to surround those Albino Guard if I want to kill them very easily. Again, Lothern Sea Guard, very versatile unit, but they're going to have trouble dealing with something as elite as the Albino Guard. They're the bodyguards of the Council of 13 for the Skaven. So very important unit, very interesting unit, but very powerful because they're halberd units as well. Halberds are very good in Medieval 2 because they have fast attack animation, which means they can kind of stun lock you. So, a lot of these troops, the Screaming Bell getting close to the walls here to start putting that morale debuff on my High Elves up on top. And I am actually dealing with these Plague Monks quite well. Swordmasters of Hoeth have a unique attack animation in this mod. It's also in Call of Warhammer as well. They'll do a spinning attack animation, but it's very fast, which means they can kill units extremely quickly. So Swordmasters are one of the best units you can put on top of the walls here, and they are just going to work on these Plague Monks. Like, the Plague Monks are a good unit. They cost almost 3,000 gold to field. Swordmasters don't care. just shredding through them in seconds, even though they have 2 HP. So yeah, with those attack animations, they're a great unit to back up my High Elf Spears up top. And now the Phoenix Guard, the personal retinue of the Phoenix King and the Guardians of the Shrine of Azurian, one of the most brutally effective melee units in the lore and in Call of Warhammer. They will hold this gate or die trying. Up top, gotten a nice rear charge into the Albino Guard with the Swordmasters of Hoeth. And now the Hell Cannon is starting to poke holes in my defenses. Chaos is still kind of hanging back at the moment. So many troops here. There are even Bloodletters of Khorne with like 3 HP, Nurgle Chosen with 2 HP. Yeah, those Chaos Trolls, that Hell Cannon. So many high tier troops for Chaos. This is going to be insane to try to defend against. A lot of troops to deal with. And High Elves are certainly going to have an issue with this many enemies on the field. So we'll see how it's going so far. Night Runners and Plague Monks not having too much fun over on this side of the battlefield. I had really wanted to get that really good cycle charging going on outside the city. It's one of my favorite things to do in Medieval 2 or any siege battles, sally out with high tier cavalry, but oh my god. Those Warp Lightning Cannons put so much work in on my men. And they actually don't do damage to walls, so they're not going to be able to poke holes in my defenses, which is good. I think it only does like 1 HP damage to a wall when it hits, so they're much better against groups of high tier troops. They can, as you saw, completely blow up an entire unit. And my burning oil falling down on the Albino Guard. Marauder Axeman trying to get in there as well. Marauder Axeman, if he had a good line of sight, would be fantastic against the Phoenix Guard, because the Phoenix Guard don't have a shield block chance, and the Axe Throwers have really high missile damage. So that's a really good way to deal with some of these elite tier high elf troops, but he doesn't have a line of sight. Albino Guard trying to push through, and even though the Albino Guard are some of the best halberd units in the game, they cannot stand up in 1v1 combat with the Phoenix Guard in halberd wall, just completely destroying that engagement right there. The wall over here down to 67% health, or 67% damage has been done to it, so starting to move some of my Lothern Sea Guard over there to get ready for this impending invasion. When Chaos starts pouring through that breach, that is going to be an absolute issue for my Lothern Sea Guard. And Phoenix Guard still holding strong at the gate, and get a good look at the plaza, what I have left back here. The remnants of some of those Dragon Princes of Caledor and my general unit, so I had 3 of those incredibly powerful high tier cavalry units. And we'll see if I'm able to use those effectively in the city. In the plaza, they might be able to get their charges off, but it's going to be a lot harder to do in the streets, the narrow streets of Lothern. Warp Lightning Cannon moving up now to reinforce, might be trying to go for some shots through the gate. That will be devastating to both parties if he manages to do that. We'll see what he goes for with the Warp Lightning Cannon. I have to be very wary of what that unit is doing, and so I'm going to start focusing it down with some of my Shadow Warriors up top, shooting them. If I can maybe kill the crew before that Warp Lightning Cannon ever makes it into the city, that would be a big deal, because I can't let that thing shoot me again. I can't. It does way too much damage. And then over here, Swordmasters of Hoeth have cleaned up most of the Plague Monks. Some Night Runners also in there as well, but they don't want to be fighting Swordmasters in 1v1 combat. That's not a good engagement for them. And look at the balance bar. It's actually shifted a little bit in my favor from the start, but it started out about 1/3 in my favor. And like I said, they had twice the funds that I did. I am defending a huge city, but it is tier 1 towers, so just regular arrow towers don't do very much damage to this many high armor units for the Skaven and for Chaos Undivided. And it's at this point in the battle, my mortal enemies Tim the Enchanter and the Cool Cats Club are going to pull their Skaven and Marauder troops back from the gate. They've been burned to cinders over and over by that constant stream of oil from above, and the Warp Lightning Cannon is in a kind of suspicious place right now, and I'm focusing on it with my camera in a second here, so you know something is about to happen soon. The last couple of Marauder troops are getting torn to shreds by my oil and by my Phoenix Guard, but I'm looking at the Warp Lightning Cannon. You know something's about to happen. I'll give you 3 guesses what's about to occur. It's winding up to fire right now, and as we zoom down and get a better look at what's going on and what the Warp Lightning Cannon is doing, it's about to fire. Oh my sweet baby Jesus, look at that carnage. My beautiful, brave, and badass Phoenix Guard are going to be enveloped in a towering inferno and melt away to nothing, and that just might have paved the way for Chaos and Skaven to enter the city. Almost 70 Phoenix Guard left in that unit, completely torn to shreds by a single Warp Lightning Cannon volley. That was bad. And then over on this side, the Hell Cannon has finally breached the walls. Chaos Trolls making their way into combat with my Lothern Sea Guard. Bunch of Chaos Warriors of Chaos Undivided. And the Bloodletters of Khorne also closing into melee. Those demonic troops of the Warp pledged to Khorne, and they're going to be able to cut through my Lothern Sea Guard. I do have the numbers advantage right now, or it seems that way. I have them surrounded. It's going to be hard for them to cut through, but still, Bloodletters are a problem. There are Nurglings moving in there as well. Flamers of Tzeentch moving up. Marauders with axes. It's gotten bad for the High Elves of Lothern here. So we're making our last stand at the moment. The Swordmasters have just cut through these Plague Monks like a hot knife through butter. There are so few of them left now. Those first invasion forces did not have a good time against the Swordmasters. And again, one of my favorite High Elf units. Cost 2,500 gold to field, cutting through just so much gold for the Skaven. So that's been really good for me over there. But in the center, losing that Phoenix Guard was really bad. I've learned my lesson now. My other Phoenix Guard positioned behind the gate so that it can't be shot by the Warp Lightning Cannon until he tries to roll through. Warblock Jezzail is trading fire with my Shadow Warriors up top. That's going to be a really hard shot for them. They really don't have an angle. You can just barely see the heads of my Shadow Warriors above. Shadow Warriors being the Elves of Nagaroth who remained loyal to the Phoenix King, honing their marksmanship and ambush skills in a Shadow War against the Malekith and the traitorous Dark Elves. So the Shadow Warriors are basically good Dark Elves. They're High Elves that were on Nagaroth when the Civil War started. So they're a really cool unit. They're good in melee. They have a really, really long range bow and good missile damage at 10, so they can shred through stuff very quickly. And now the Hell Cannon is shooting another hole in the wall, which means that even more Chaos troops are going to be able to pour in from behind. When that happens, that entire left flank of mine is going to be in serious trouble. And now the Screaming Bell, the elite Stormvermin for the Screaming Bell bodyguards, have moved up and are going to be engaging my Swordmasters alongside some of the Albino Guard. So that's a lot of high-tier Halberd troops for the Skaven. A lot of Stormvermin up there. That could be a problem for my Swordmasters, who have easily racked up 200 kills already. They've been doing work for me up here. But yeah, things are getting scary for the High Elves. Honestly, there are a lot of troops making it into the city at this point. Get a good look at some of those killing animations. Those High Elf spears at the bottom, they're bugged out. They're actually still routing for some reason. I guess some of the troops are like stuck on a wall outside the settlement and can't like route back to the plaza. So the whole unit's kind of chilling. But the Hell Cannon has finally breached through. Shadow Warriors still firing into the Jezzails. Should be able to drop them pretty easy, although I'd much rather all the arrows be going straight. If you might have noticed in Medieval 2, when you shoot straight up into the air, your missile effectiveness is a lot less than if you were shooting straight at the enemy target. So I guess the walls are just kind of blocking some of those shots. And the Bloodletters are into combat, and now this is bad. Flamers of Tzeentch in there, and it's going to be so bad for the High Elf archers who are now out of ammunition. I'm going to try to get them into melee. Look at that carnage. Look at that destruction. The entire unit is just getting flame on right now. Flame on! And they're just going to die so fast. The archers are going to try to do what they can. They might be able to drop a couple of models off the Flamers, but they do have multiple HP. They are a fast unit, and they're honestly kind of decent in melee as well. So you can see my High Elf archers over here are melting, and now the Khorne Berserkers, the chosen of the Blood God. Blood for the Blood God, skulls for the Skull Throne, pouring through. More Chaos Undivided troops coming in, and they're going to get a rear charge off into my Lothern Sea Guard, which could precipitate an entire crumbling of my left flank, and then there'd be nothing to stop them from going into the city. Some friendly fire going off, going to drop a couple of the Khorne Chosen, and I'm going to peel off my Lothern Sea Guard. But getting shot by these Flamers, that huge morale penalty from the Flamethrowers, and these Khorne Berserkers getting into melee, I can't expect what is basically High Elf Citizen Militia to hold the line there. They're a really good unit, and they perform way better than you would expect Citizen Militia to perform. But Lothern Sea Guard and High Elf Spears are basically the Citizen Militia of the High Elves, so they're not going to hold for much longer. That entire side's going to break very soon. Did get my Dragon Princes of Caledor up the center, slaughtering some Nurglings, and some Jezzails have made it into the city, trying to shoot into the back of my own men. Shadow Warrior is going to have none of that, going to stab the crap out of these stupid Ratmen, going to drop them pretty quick. There's a couple models of my Shadow Warriors, but they are much better in melee than Warblock Jezzails, as you would expect. Warblock Jezzails are frail things. Shadow Warriors are badasses, so we're going to be able to cut through them pretty easy. But yeah, this is starting to look very, very grim, very dark, getting pushed back continuously. Massive amounts of troops pouring in through the breaches, surrounding me. All my citizen militia on this side dead. They got surrounded, and the other side of the engagement right here, just a handful of Lothern Sea Guard holding on strong, but they won't be able to hold for much longer. And the Khorne Berserkers and the Flamers of Tzeentch, they might have a clear-cut opportunity to run straight to the central plaza, where the High Elves will have to make their last stand. And yeah, they're breaking now. That's going to be a mass rout really soon. Wavering, very tired. They've killed hundreds of Chaos Warriors so far, but it's not going to be enough. Still wavering and shaken, impetuous wavering. It's going to happen really soon. What can you do against these many demonic entities from the warp? All these Chaos Warriors in full plate. Oh, the entire defense is crumbling right now. And look at it. Oh my god, I slaughtered those Nurglings. That's my general unit right there. Did manage to kill everything at the gate. These Warplock Jezzails are actually getting really good shots off into the flanks of my Swordmasters up top. I need to silence those guns right now. Because, I mean, these Swordmasters have been fighting since the beginning of the match. And they've killed everything that's been thrown at them. But if they get shot to pieces, that won't be good for me. Obviously, some more Swordmasters coming in to deal with the Screaming Bell. I have no idea how... I guess they flanked all the way around, went down on the ground, and then came up on the other side to get around my Swordmasters, but I overlapped with some Lothern Sea Guard and some more Swordmasters, and my entire flank on the left side has crumbled, and now Chaos is streaming through, and this is where it really elevates. This is where the High Elves have to step up their game, or things are going to get really brutal. If Lothern falls here, the entire population going to get put to the sword. Who knows what Tzeentch and Khorne and Nurgle are going to do to the population. That is just an absolute nightmare. You don't want to be dealing with that. So, Dragon Princes of Caledor, my general, Prince Tyrion of the High Elves, going to have to make their last stand in the plaza. That's going to happen very soon. And this was really bad. I have no idea what happened. My Swordmasters routed. They were killing everything. I guess it was the shots from the Warplock Jezzails that caused a mass rout here. They're going to rout through the Screaming Bell Stormvermin, though, which means they are going to drop almost to a man. Very few of those Swordmasters are going to make it through. I can't say I was ashamed of these Hoeth troops because they had killed so many. Hundreds, probably over 200 easily. Skaven, elite Skaven troops, Plague Monks, and Stormvermin. But to rout when there were still 65 or 70 men left in the unit, that's disappointing. And then the entire unit is just going to get wiped as they rout through the enemy Stormvermin. So that sucked. That is not good. That was an entire unit, and you can see that balance bar took a turn for the worse there with me losing that unit. So Flamers are now moving up the central street to the plaza, and this sucked. Shadow Warriors were routing, and then I didn't notice that they came back, and this is right when the Flamers started encroaching on their position. I am going to notice it as the Flamers start shooting, but my Shadow Warriors are going to get burned, and I'm going to lose some models here for sure. And one captain of my Dragon Prince of Caledor, this is not my general, but it is a captain, going to charge up the center for a brilliant charge into the Flamers. Go for it, and he is going to fall, burned alive by Eldritch Fire. Brave last stand from the captain there. Almost could have probably killed 3 or 4 models with his charge if he had gotten it off, but he dropped right before he got into melee, and that sucked. And the captain is going to burn for his efforts, but a brave last stand nonetheless. Prince Tyrion and 2 units of Dragon Princes of Caledor. Phoenix Standard still alive though, still blowing in the breeze, still in the plaza, and we're going to have to make our last stand here with just a handful of High Elf troops. Now we have bled the Skaven and the forces of Chaos Undivided a lot to this point, but now the inexorable horde, the never-ending tide of chaos is coming. Khorne Berserkers leading the way, the chosen of the Blood God. And behind that, even more Khorne Chosen, more Warriors of Chaos Undivided, the Bloodletters now. Lots of Khorne troops, and the Nurgle Chosen as well, which are one of my favorite models in this mod. Look at them. So badass looking. And those are all going to be entering combat with my Dragon Princes very soon. Just a handful of High Elf troops still out here, fighting on the walls to the last man. Swordmasters should be able to clean up these last groups of Stormvermin from the Screaming Bell. Now the engagement has begun. The Dragon Princes of Caledor running forward into melee with my High Elf Spears. and the remnants of my Lothern Sea Guard. Gonna make a brave last stand here. Balance bar so far in their favor, but it's not over yet. Remember, this is a Medieval 2 mod, which means that cavalry is everything. If I can get my charges off, if I can get my Dragon Princes to drop their lances and cycle charge over and over again, I do have a chance to win this battle. We'll see. For now, not cycle charging, just trying to hold them back as my archers fire into the blob. Going to be a little bit of friendly fire going on, but killing way more Chaos troops. Going to pull back my Dragon Princes. And now, my Phoenix Guard, who have killed so many in this battle. Both of them, I think, over 200 kills already at this point. Going into melee. The other one is completely gone, I think. The one that got hit by the Warp Lightning Cannon, I think that entire unit is dead. Maybe like 5 or 10 guys fighting in the plaza from that unit, but the other one is still going strong. Swordmasters of Hoeth here as well. It gets so epic here, ladies and gentlemen. It really does. It really gets so good. So the Bloodletters are charging into the rear of my Phoenix Guard, and they don't give a shit. It is time to just rip through these demons of Khorne. Who cares that you're from the Warp? Who cares that you're blessed by the blood of the Blood God? It doesn't matter. We're just going to stab you in the face. Phoenix Guard completely surrounded and slaughtering everything. They're awesome. I love the Phoenix Guard. And they're going to be super cool to see in Total War Warhammer when High Elves officially get released. As some of you may know, High Elves are one of my favorite, maybe my favorite race in all of Total War Warhammer, or in all of Warhammer. Just super cool units. And dragons as well. Didn't bring the dragons this game. You'll get to see them soon enough. But Swordmasters, their spinning attack animation cutting through the Nurgle Chosen, but they do have 2 HP and really high armor values. So dealing with them in melee is going to be very difficult. And they're just pushing through this inexorable horde of chaos. The never-ending tides, they just keep coming. There's so many of them left, and so few High Elves. I did manage to get some of my archers into melee with the Warlock Jezzails. I outnumber them here. Should be able to cut through them and eliminate them from the field. And the Stormvermin getting mowed down like wheat before the scythe, unable to handle the speed and skill of the Swordmasters in combat. And now, my Dragon Princes, those favored sons of Caledor, making a desperate gamble to ambush these reinforcing troops. The Warp Lightning Cannon is still alive, and the dudes do not abide. It's time to ambush them from the flank to charge in and silence those rat engineers forever. Brutal charge coming in. Might have to sacrifice this entire unit of elf nobility, but to prevent that Warp Lightning Cannon from ever firing again and killing more of my troops is going to be worth it. Swords flashing, Chaos Warriors dying. We're killing a bunch of models over here. Dragon Prince just going to work, cutting through everything. Captain's still alive, and we are going to pull out of that engagement. And I think we are going to succeed there and silence that Warp Lightning Cannon crew, prevent them from firing. So desperate gamble there did pay off, and now the Khorne Chosen have broken through and are into the center of the High Elf Plaza in Lothern here at the end of all things. My Dragon Princes of Caledor and Prince Tyrion are gonna have to go to work if we want to hold back these tides. Khorne Chosen getting a rear charge off into the backs of these Shadow Warriors, and this is where the Dragon Princes can make their presence felt. With a long run up, they can drop their lances and get those full charge bonuses off. That wasn't an amazing charge. Again, charges are kind of bugged in Medieval 2 in cities. It's really hard to get the full charge bonus off, but if I continue to cycle charge, I might be able to deal with these hordes that are coming in now. A couple of flamers still left alive, still shooting in, still putting a hurt on my guys. I need to kill them first before I focus on the cycle charging. Phoenix Guard still cutting through these Chaos Warriors like butter, but they are dwindling in number now at this point. I think that charge finished off the rest of these Flamers of Tzeentch. Maybe actually no, a couple left still. So what needs to happen on their side of things is those Khorne Chosen need to stay on my Dragon Princes. They need to be focusing on my Dragon Princes. If he prevents me from getting a full run-up in the plaza, I won't be able to get my full charge bonus off, and I'm not going to be able to deal with this many troops. But he's actually going for a rear charge into my Phoenix Guard, which isn't a bad idea, but the trade-off is now he's turning his flank, and his general is going to go down. His general is dead. I don't expect to see any mass routes from Chaos. They have good morale troops, but still, killing the general is a big deal, and it means, again, I'm going to be able to pull out and cycle charge. So what they should be doing is pulling off 1 or 2 or 3 units to just chase down my general unit. It's the only full-strength unit still left on the field. It's the only unit that can deal with this many troops. So if he chases after them and doesn't give them the run-up to get their full charge bonus off, it's basically going to cut their melee effectiveness down by a lot. And they're not doing it right now. They're allowing me to cycle charge, which could end up hurting them. We'll see. This is so close. I mean, I'm outnumbered here. If they shut down my Dragon Princes of Caledor, I lose. If they kill my general unit, it's over. But those ambushing troops, those other units of Dragon Princes that killed the Warp Lightning Cannon, coming in now, getting another great charge off. And this is where High Elf nobility shine. In the melee, with the dropping lances on the charge, killing just hundreds of Chaos troops as they charge in. That's a bit of an exaggeration. Probably killing like 15 or 20 on each charge. But I'm starting to shift the battle back in my favor, and what was starting to look like a hopeless battle, maybe not quite as hopeless, but Swordmasters, handful of them left, only like 8 or 9 guys. Phoenix Guard, completely surrounded at this point. Dragon Princes charging in again, another good charge off, gonna drop some of the Bloodletters of Khorne. Some of those Daemon troops that are really hard to cut through are starting to drop now after taking HP damage and fighting for so long. I'd say there's about 25, maybe 30 Phoenix Guard left. Swordmasters are completely dead at this point. Handful of Khorne Chosen in there, and now more Chaos Warriors and Marauder troops moving in. And this is going to get so brutal. There is actually 1 or 2 Skaven troops still pushing that Warp Lightning Cannon. They might still be able to fire if they can get line of sight. I'm not sure if it's enough to operate the entire cannon, but we'll see. 16 Swordmasters of Hoeth from the walls that finished off the Stormvermin from the Screaming Bell coming in now. Gonna cut through these stupid little Nurglings. I hate Nurglings. I hate them so much. They're so ugly and stupid and dumb looking. Look at their stupid wiggly bodies and their fat and their stupid stubby legs. I hate them. We're gonna kill them. We're gonna kill all of them. And now Dragon Prince is getting whittled down as well. If I leave them in melee too long here, the Nurgle Chosen could definitely cut through. And I'm getting a kind of a flanking charge into the back of these Chaos Warriors, but I think I was actually going for the Warp Lightning Cannon. Yeah, he's turning it. I can't let that thing shoot again, so I'm going to focus on that first, which is going to expose my flank. Might let the Phoenix Guard die there just to kill the Warp Lightning Cannon. Another charge, dropping lances at the last second. You saw that. If they didn't drop their lances, it wouldn't have been a very good charge, but they did. Cutting through a swath of destruction through this flank of the Chaos Warriors, and it's desperate now. It is so desperate. Lothern is on the edge of the knife. If it goes one way, entire city gonna be corrupted by chaos and murdered by all these stupid ratmen. And if we win, just a handful of the nobility and the Swordmasters will be left alive. So either way, a bad day for the High Elves, but hopefully an even worse day for Chaos and Skaven. So we'll see. Still charging in, still causing a lot of carnage here with Prince Tyrion. But Balance Bar, look at that. Look at it creeping back in my favor. It is starting to shift. The tides of battle are shifting. What looked like numberless hordes are now much depleted at this point. And this is starting to go in my favor at this point. It could still go either way. Honestly, still don't know which way this is going to go. But a couple of Khorne Berserkers left. Not going to have fun as Prince Tyrion goes in and starts stabbing the crap out of people. And I've left these Dragon Princes in there. They're just cutting through. These are an amazing units. Kind of spazzing out right now. That's Medieval too. There's still a bit of those graphical bugs and the silliness where they kind of spaz out and swing their sword like 16 times in like 5 seconds. But we're going to work. And the last handful of the Guardians of the Shrine of Azurian still alive. Still fighting to the last man in the plaza. Don't get any morale penalties here. Cannot rout. We are unbreakable as we fight in the center of these Phoenix Standards. Oh my god, these charges are so brilliant. It's so gorgeous. And it's 50-50 now. Balance Bar is at 50-50. We've each lost 93% of our armies. Nurglings fighting just a handful of Swordmasters of Hoeth and a few Lothern Sea Guard. I've lost 2 of my Swordmasters back here to Nurglings. That's embarrassing for them. They must have gotten like vomited on and just died to plague or something, but you don't want your most elite troops dying to Nurglings. Nurglings are an embarrassment. Marauders moving up now. And by the way, I love Nurgle. Nurgle is one of my favorite Chaos Gods, but I think we can all agree that Nurglings look silly. That's the point though. Lothern Sea Guard charging in. They should be able to handle what's left of these Marauder Axemen, but won't be an easy fight. I do have better armor, better shield block chance, of course. The Marauder Axemen don't have any shield whatsoever. And they're not throwing their axes, must be out of ammunition. Lothern Sea Guard making their last stand, gonna push back these hordes of chaos. And yes, at this point, I'm starting to think that I've got a really, really good shot to win this game. Lothern Sea Guard should be able to handle this engagement even though they are outnumbered. Very few of the chaos troops left, still getting cycle charged in the background. And what they had to do to silence those cavalry was just chase after them. Cavalry doesn't charge in streets. If you're in the middle of a street, you won't charge. They won't ever drop their lances in the middle of a street because it's just how Medieval 2 works. It's just kind of buggy that way. It's not an easy thing to do to get a charge off there, but if you're in the plaza where you get more room to run up and you can kind of spread out the unit, they will drop their lances. So if they had just pushed me out of the central plaza, I wouldn't have been able to overwhelm them with the Dragon Princes like this. And now, let's be honest, this game's over. I've taken the battlefield. Khorne Chosen completely depleted at this point. The cycle charges at the end were too much, and they had the troops to prevent me from doing what I did. They just ignored them and went for the Phoenix Guard, which I understand because Phoenix Guard are an amazing unit. They were cutting through the Chaos troops, but the Dragon Princes of Caledor were the most important units on the field. You push me out of the plaza, you prevent me from getting good charge bonuses off, you win. And they failed to do that there at the end. Look at the balance bar, they have admitted defeat, and the High Elves of Ulthuan have defended Lothern from the encroaching enemy forces. Skaven and Chaos Undivided utterly broken, and we have done it. We have done it. Look at those kills, almost 3,000. Tim the Enchanter and the Cool Cats Club doing plenty of work. I only had a handful of men left. There were 270 men remaining on my army, but a bunch of those were High Elf spears that were glitched out on the other side of the battlefield, not able to fight whatsoever. So I probably had less than 150 men left in this battle, and I managed to pull it out. I mean, look at these kills. Look at them. The Dragon Princes almost 300. The Phoenix Guard each over 250 easily. Swordmasters doing work on the walls. And outnumbered 2-1, we managed to push back the unending hordes of Chaos Undivided. Exhausting battle to cast and to play. But it was so much fun. I hope you guys enjoyed this. This was the mother of all siege battles for Warhammer. This is the kind of stuff I want to see in Total War Warhammer in terms of sieges. So much fun to play. Hope you guys enjoyed watching it. And much more content coming very soon. Have a good night.